after that, they realized there was a big problem with piracy, but that was also pretty boring. I mean, it's just you're just sitting on a ship waiting for pirates to come try to take it over and drone and special operations war.
Interesting. Now when you're there, it was what, like 03 to 06 you were there?
Yeah.
Roughly? Did you have breaks where you came home?
Oh, yeah.
For a short, yeah. You have to have that interspliced in there, right?
Yeah.
And what made you want to get out in 06 and leave the SEALs?
Wasn't enough action.
Really?
Yeah.
So by the end, you weren't doing a ton of missions. You were just sitting around.
Oh, no, we were doing a ton of missions. But out of the 6 years, there was maybe 6 months of hard combat.
Interesting.
And I was like, at the time, that wasn't enough for me. I never wanted to see my first rotation. I went to Europe. I did a bunch of stuff. I went to Panama, I went to Haiti. Those were kind of cool. Then I went to Germany, and all that was chasing women and drinking booze and getting in bar fights. And you know,
got in bar fights?
As fun as that was, I was like, what the fuck am I doing here, man? I didn't come for this shit. If I wanted to do this, I would have went to school and become a fucking frat boy. I came over to kick some ass and fight for my country, and that isn't what I was doing. And then we went to Greece, and for 2004, when the Olympics were there, and we came up with all these evacuation routes for the terrorist threat that was pretty imminent at the time. But that's not what I did. I didn't want to do that. You know, it was cool. Yeah, I got to see the Olympics. I got to meet a bunch of the athletes. Me and my team designed the entire contingency plans and evacuation plans and all that if something were to happen. But I wasn't killing bad guys, and I didn't want to be there. And then we did the NATO convention in Turkey in 2004 as well. That wasn't exciting for me at all. It was a bunch of sniper overwatch for the president and the SecDef and Secretary of State and shit like that. And then we went to Afghanistan, and like I said, we got to see a little bit of shit there. Not a whole lot. Pretty uneventful for the most part. And then Iraq was the big ticket, you know, that I wanted to do. But I didn't want to give another 4 or 5 years of my life up to go sit on my ass in Germany and chase ass and drink booze. You know, I was just like, this is not what it's cracked up to be. And that was my experience. That's not everybody's experience, you know. So.
But you didn't, like you had been saying, it's not like you're like, well, I'm going to go to the agency now. There was time there. You said you went to the State Department for 5 minutes or something. And then I think did you tell me off camera you were in the private sector at some point too for a short time? Or was that afterwards, after everything?
That was, I did some anti-piracy stuff as well. When that whole thing was going on after the, what was it, the Maersk, Alabama, Captain Phillips.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. After that, they realized there was a big problem with piracy, but that was also pretty boring. I mean, it's just, you're just sitting on a ship waiting for pirates to come try to take it over, and you shoot them. It lasts like, I don't know. 30 seconds, if that. And so then I went back to the agency.
Yeah, because like just looking at it from the outside, I would think like you go to leave the Navy SEALs, like what are you going to, unless you have the plan to go to the agency right away, like what'd you think you were going to find like back working in the States or something compared to that? Even if it wasn't the op tempo you wanted by the end, like you didn't want to do 5 years where it wasn't as much like action, like doesn't really get more potential for action, I would think, than that.
I mean, look, man, I was 24 years old.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's all I knew.
Right. So you come back, you get in, you find your way into the agency. Now you're actually in action again. But I think the thing that I can't totally wrap my head around as much as I hear it, and I probably won't be able to wrap my head around it with whatever answer you give, but when you hear a lot of veterans talk, like across anything. I'm not just talking about Navy SEALs, special forces guys, infantrymen, whatever. They talk about war zones and they highlight that war is hell and all these things, as they should, and you guys recognize that. You've seen it. But there's also almost like the paradox to it that, like, but we wanted to be there. And there was no place in the world we wanted to be besides that.
Yeah.
What do you think that is that, like, burns inside you, that needs to be in the middle of something that is like the worst shit you could possibly be seeing in the world at that time, but you're there and you belong there?
I mean, a lot of guys consider it to be a privilege to be in combat. And that's just something that if you haven't experienced it, you'll never understand it. There's nothing more real than being in those type of situations. And you come to find what you're capable of, how much courage you actually have, what are you actually willing to do. I mean, you could sit there and think about it all. I would have done this, I would have done that, but you don't really fucking know how you would react if I whipped out a gun right now and pointed it at your head, or we got into a gunfight and you'd been training for this for years and years and years. And then you experience it. It's it is a privilege to be able to fight in that capacity, alongside the guys that you consider your family, and you find a lot out about yourself as a man that most men they'll never know how they would have reacted, and so I wouldn't take it back.
That's awesome. That actually is a really, really good answer. I think, it's nice, and it's something that's great about your platform. Guys like me can watch that and listen to all these different people from all the ends of the military come to that kind of conclusion, no matter what their background is, what they did, what they didn't do. It's in the same, there are different answers, but it's in the same wavelength. Like, it's something bigger than you. And I think that's what it takes to be able to, be an 18-year-old who's like, yeah, I'm going to sign my life to go fight for my country. I mean, it's like the ballsiest thing you can do. Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.